Hello and welcome. My name is Roy at the Movies, and this is Terrence at the Movies of the At the Movies family. Hence, we are Terrence and Roy at the Movies. Today we saw the film It. It.
What's it?
It. What is it? It's it. What is it? That's a song reference. It. Chapter 1. Spoiler alert.
Chapter 1. So what was your thought about going to go see It opening weekend?
What was my thought about it? I like the original. I watched the original again recently because it's been on TV because the new one's coming out.
Yep. And
it's hard to compare the two. I don't know. Well, how did you feel about going to see It?
Okay. So it is kind of hard to compare the two, but I will do it anyways.
Yes, do it anyways.
So this is how I felt about It, in the modern day story. It was kind of nice to see some fresh faces, but they jumped right to the plot and the storyline. It was good. I like the fact that they decided to take it back to the 80s of when they were trying to show it. But I feel like in this It, as compared to the old It, there's not as much character development.
I know that was definitely a problem we shared. Yeah, we thought the characters weren't nearly well developed enough, especially compared to the old one.
So in this movie, they're only trying to make it like a 2-hour-long movie.
Yeah.
So they are cutting out key important character development.
Yeah.
To do that, they to kind of make up for that, they are going through each child's has like a 5-minute scene where they pretty much experience a scary scene from It.
Yeah, instead of doing character development, they just kind of go through the series of like, it's a manifestation of this person's fear, and that person's fear, and that person's fear. And it's fine, for a horror movie, it's fine, but it leaves them pretty, shallow in terms of the characters.
If I was watching this movie and it was no It prior to this, honestly, the movie would have probably got even higher ratings. But being that it has to live up to what has already came before it, this movie falls slightly short of what the old one is. Meaning, the old one was a TV show originally.
Yeah, it was made for TV.
And it was a 3-hour-long TV show movie. So the character development and like the buy-in when you came to the characters, you cared much more about them. Half the people and half the kids in this this movie of It, I didn't care if they died.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on that. The weird thing when you said it, and I didn't realize it until you said it, but when you said that if there hadn't been an old one, people would have liked this movie better. In general, I agree with that. But in a weird sort of way, I'm the opposite. If there hadn't been an old one, I think I would have liked this movie worse.
Really?
For what it is. I don't know. I feel like this movie was propelled a lot by me already knowing the story and already knowing the characters. Like, it might have been helped by the fact that I could fill in the gaps and I had things to reference to and things like that.
Well, So the main character Billy, when you're matching them up, I feel like this Billy is not as good as the original Billy.
Yeah, this Billy's stuttering was really kind of seemed forced and unconvincing as opposed to the original Billy's.
Yeah, this Billy's stuttering kind of took you out of the movie.
Yeah.
It's really from the first scene, which is so iconic.
Yeah.
Like most people know the first scene.
Yeah.
Where Georgie makes the boat and Georgie's running through to try to save the boat. And then like right off the back, I was like, man, the way they murdered Georgie was kind of intense.
Yeah, this is the problem I have. In the original, it was pretty clear that Tim Curry was an evil clown who was going to murder everyone.
Yep.
There's no way around that. But it was done in sort of a way where like he was supposed to. They were trying to play it off normally almost in the original. They were almost like, it's totally normal that there's this clown in the sewer, and it's going to happen. It's going to be real. And Tim Curry was like kind of casual about it.
Yep.
In this, it wasn't casual at all.
No, it's in your face creepy.
Because that's the thing. In the original, you could almost buy Georgie being like, oh, there's nothing that non-threatening. He's like young and naive. You're like, oh, there's nothing non-threatening about Tim Curry and his server. It's a suspension of disbelief, but the way they play it makes it more possible. In this, Georgie would not have. No, it's terrifying from the very first moment. And you're just like, oh, he's gonna kill you. Oh no, it's bad. So that's the thing that kind of bothered me a little bit. Is like, it takes a lot of suspension of disbelief to believe it in the first place, but just the way they played it in this, it was so overt. Like,
so one of the things I wish they would have did better was like they really wanted to kind of show more of like the murder scenes of how it was getting them, but like that was like part of the thing that I think there's a thing called suspension and scariness of not knowing.
That's the thing. The weird thing, and it doesn't get too far into like horror movie analysis or anything like that, but the scariest thing is not having control. That's kind of the foundation of what everything is based on to a certain extent. Not having control. And the more you know about something, the more you understand it, the less afraid of it you are, because the more like you feel like you have mental control over your response to it. So the more explicit you are about it, the less scary it is, to a certain extent.
So like, yeah, like the movie was extremely creepy, but then they try to just go over the top on something. Where I really think it was, especially just the Georgie scene, less is more. What I mean?
Definitely less is more.
Like when he exposed his teeth, I was like, really? That's
the thing.
Like, really?
When Tim Curry does it, it's like sinister, kind of, but it's also kind of charming. But when they do it in this movie, it's just terrifying. There's nothing else to take from it.
but I I think it was just creepier when like in the original movie there's just like he reaches in and then they show nothing there.
He just
completely
disappears.
gone.
He just disappears.
So you're really trying to do the mental math of like, what the heck happened?
Yeah, what happened?
How is that possible? I'm not gonna lie, that sewer was so big I could have fit my entire body down there. I'm a big guy.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about this for a second. There's going to be inevitable comparisons to Tim Curry, and there's no question about it. You can't beat Tim Curry. There's no way around it. I thought Bill Skarsgård did a good job as Pennywise. There were certain moments, like you said, that I don't even know if it was his fault or if it was the directing, but it was a little overplayed and things like that. And he tried to go for a different interpretation, and it worked more when he didn't repeat. Obviously, it's the same story, so he's going to repeat some of the stuff Tim Curry says. But when he was repeating lines that Tim Curry has in the original movie, it just seemed a little too obvious he was trying to go for a different interpretation and forcing it in a different direction, as opposed to going with what seemed natural.
See, I'm a little bit different there. See, I wasn't upset. I feel like this guy plays a good Pennywise. I felt like he was very creepy. Very scary, and like, like if I was a kid watching this, holy smokes, if that freaking clown was running after me, I'd be scared. I think I would have been more scared if they would have showed a little less in the previews than what they showed, because they showed a lot of the scary scenes.
Yeah.
But then some of it was forced in the fact that, and I blame the directing. Some of it was forced in the fact that they needed to show him basically murdering them in every scene. You know what I mean? Or or they needed to show him, being over the top creepy when just a clown like that. If I seen that clown in the woods or the streets or anything,
more is less subtle. It's about what you don't know. It's about the impending presence. The original, so much of it was just like he's just standing there. He's just standing there staring at you, and it's terrifying. This one, it's always like he's always doing something. It was always visceral. It was always, and sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. But that's my overall point too. Was I think Bill Skarsgård did a good job. I'm not saying that he didn't. Yeah. I don't think you could ever beat Tim Curry. I don't think that was even on the table, really, probably. But I do think he did a good job. So a couple things I'm gonna go into, a couple things I liked and a couple things I had issues with. Sure.
The thing I liked about this is the acting. A lot of the actors, especially for their age, the kids were pretty good. You know, I feel like it lives up to what the It name is. I like the interpretation. I like I really liked It himself. He's kind of creepy. You know, creepier than creepier than I would say than the original It in some instances. Because he, you know, he was attacking a little bit more. You know, and overall, I enjoyed the movie. I give you a rating a little bit later, but you know, so it's just easier to kind of pick out what you don't like. What I don't like is, you know, Billy could have used some, you know, better practice with stuttering. I wish they would have took a page out of more of the Stranger Things playbook, and if they were going to go 80s, I wish they would have completely committed, you know, some 80s music, some more 80s backstory, something to really take you back into that 80s time period, and just take some more time for character development. I really don't feel like this, you know, this movie pushed the envelope as much as the original It did, and you know, on social issues that they could have at the time, and they hinted at it. They danced around the social issues.
Yeah.
That was very prevalent at that time. But they kind of missed the boat there.
It was more summer blockbustery than, well, made for TV movie. You know, spending your time with it sort of thing. And I kind of picking up, you know, where you left off. One of the things I did like was the directing. The downside to that was there were specific moments where I really thought they made choices that were bad. And some of the 80s tie-ins I thought were the worst parts, and maybe that's why I didn't want them to go more full 80s. But some of the like uses of licensed music and everything didn't seem like it was establishing the environment or the era. It just seemed like it was really weirdly randomly forced because the story happened to take place then. And that was kind of off-putting for me, so... And I agree with you, though, that, you know, you said that, like, earlier that, you know, parts of it felt like it took place in the modern day. And I agree with you. That's a flaw for when it takes place. And there were some things, you know, you'd see, like, they'd always go by the theater, and, like, the original Batman would be playing because it's 89, and Lethal Weapon 2 and things like that, so that's good, but I don't know. I guess I don't want them to go full-on 80s, but it might have been more effective than what they did, which is kind of just slip it in here and there where it wasn't really appropriate.
Imagine if they went full on 80s. They add 20 minutes to the backstory of them being in school, them showing the friendship, them doing more 80s activities, you know what I mean? The kids sinking more into the roles of the 80s other than having the dresses or the hairstyle, you know what I mean? And like, you know, and they said, like, oh, the AIDS epidemic, and they kind of tied that in loosely.
Yeah.
And then they tied in, you know, the one guy was, you know, driving an 80s car, and then, you know, but like, it was so passive. Like, you seen that it was in the 80s, but they really didn't tie it in at all.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think that was never what the story was about. Of course, when the story originally existed, there was no Stranger Things. When the story existed, there was no 80s nostalgia because it was the early 90s when the story existed. You know, the 80s were still ending at that point. So it's different now, and it's hard to, you know exactly how that would play out. But I liked the directing, and I liked the production, too. You know, there were a couple of weird choices with some of the effects and things like that. But overall, it had higher production values than the made-for-TV movie. But and I liked the acting. I did. I thought a couple of people were really stand out. There were a couple of really rough performances and some mediocre performances. But on the whole, most of the acting for most of the main cast was really good. But going back to, you know, your character development thing, I think this is the root of what I really didn't like was maybe they needed more character development to build the group chemistry. Because in the original, I feel like as soon as those kids met up and as soon as they were together, immediate group chemistry. They just blended together perfectly. And maybe it was something about character building. Maybe it was the way they did it. I think that's probably part of it.
Yep.
Maybe it's just natural group chemistry or something like that. But it was like maybe, you know, at various points, 8/10 of the way through the movie or something like that before I started to really feel group chemistry for this group, which is kind of weird.
Not even not even the group chemistry. And without giving away too much, you know, as they start going through the, you know, well, 8/10 of the movie is when they finally start kind of attacking it together, and then where this movie kind of falls short is like in the olden movies they had to investigate Pennywise. Like I still have no clue what Pennywise, and I've seen the movie. If we took away the original I would have no clue what the backstory of Pennywise was.
Yeah, I know because I know from the original I know from all the Stephen King universe stuff and everything, but there's very little actual exposition about it in this movie. And I know they don't want to go full into it. They don't want to go like Stephen King universe lore in this movie, but there was so little. It was basically came down to like, oh, I found these 3 articles from history or whatever. And it's just. There's like almost nothing about exposition about what it is or how it works or anything.
And the same thing about the characters. The one guy was a germaphobe, and I didn't even I thought the kid was sickly, and I almost forgot that the original kid was a germaphobe. That nothing was really wrong with him.
Yeah.
And then and then as soon as he gets there, he's like you don't realize that's what's wrong with him until 9/10 through the movie.
Well, you're not supposed to realize this. I mean, I totally understand that. Now understanding his germaphobe thing, that I agree with. But you're not supposed to understand the psychological aspect of it until 9/10 of the way through the movie. Even in the original, they waited to get into the psychology in his mind of why he's like that, but they did it. And
but they didn't set it up beforehand. If I would have known, even a simple conversation would have been like, Billy's the stuttering kid. He's the germaphobe.
Everything in the original, it's kind of weird because almost everything in the original was almost like cliches or things like that, but they fit together so perfectly. That's the thing. Like the Mike in this movie, the new Mike, he seemed so undefined to me. The old Mike, he was almost like kind of like a nerdy cliche to a certain extent in a weird way, but he fit into the package of what they were doing so well in the old one. And in this one, he's almost bland character-wise.
In this one, he's just I'll be careful what I say, but I will use the word token. He's like an addition to the group, to basically push the envelope on racial stereotypes.
Yeah.
But kind of missed the boat because they really didn't explain.
There just wasn't enough depth to this movie. I think overall is where we're getting at completely. We wanted this movie to be deeper. We wanted more character development. We wanted more exposition and backstory on the creature.
Because I kind of forgot a little bit about the original movie. Like they could have shocked me still.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Luckily enough, I had seen the original movie like 2 days ago because again, it's been on TV multiple times. Just because the new one's coming out. But
so, what's your thoughts? Are you recommending people to go see this? What's your rating?
If you like the original, I would go see this and just compare them and see how you like both. There's some things, I will say there are moments where I genuinely was kind of afraid. No, not really genuinely afraid, but there were moments where I was genuinely startled, things like that. There were moments where I genuinely laughed out loud a couple of times. Some of the dialogue's weird and forced and everything, but some of it's great, and some of the delivery's great.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, if you like the original, or if you like the concept, I would go see it,
And in my opinion, if you've seen what came out the last 3-4 weeks, definitely go see it. This is still a very strong movie. The kids are lovable. Pennywise is still creepy. Depending on your age, Pennywise may be very, 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 very scary.
Oh, there were multiple moments where he genuinely, freaked us out a little bit.
Yeah, no, there was one moment I jumped at least 5 feet. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Pennywise, if you're afraid of clowns, do not go see this movie.
True story.
And I like to add, their spin on it. So if I had to give the rating of this movie, it's a 7 out of 10. It's a solid movie. It's good. It's entertaining. It will grip you through the entire movie. The main thing of it is, the original movie is probably a 9 out of 10.
Oh, yeah.
Legendary lore.
There's just so much, Tim Curry and all the stuff and the lore and all. There's so many things you can't completely recapture.
Fandom, the moment.
A cult classic in a sense,
So for a remake, they did know no cardinal sin.
Yeah, that's the
like,
thing. You know, we discussed one or two things, but we didn't discuss our ratings. And coincidentally enough, even though I think there were a lot of flaws, I thought it really came together at the end, and I really ended up enjoying it. And it was the sort of thing where I would look forward to seeing the next one. And so I also would go with a 7 out of 10. I think, you know, a lot of flaws, but a movie that I thought was pretty, you know, worth seeing. I wasn't angry about it or anything. I thought it was good. There were really good moments and a lot to build on. So.
Yeah.
So if you've seen it, if you want to compare it to the original, if you want to argue with us, are we insane? Things like that. Comment below. Tell us what you think. You know, and we'll see you next time.
Subscribe, like, comment. See you guys next time.